A year ago, I made this video all about what it's been like to retire at 54 and what my experiences have been like since that time. What I decided to do is pull together a bunch of the most frequently asked questions and some of the weird, kind of bizarre comments and do another video that address these things, answer those questions, or respond to those comments. So if you're in for that and learning about how I retired at 54 back in 2021, then let's go. Hi, my name is Lisa, and I am a Canadian grandma, and I welcome you to the channel. The most commonly asked question was, can I actually afford to retire? And this is a tough one for me to answer for you because A, I'm not an accountant, and B, there are so many factors and variables involved when deciding as to whether you're ready or not. Some of those factors are, how much money do you have saved? Do you have a pension? How much debt do you have? Do you still have dependents? Because I'm solo, so my bills per month are going to be very different than somebody who still has children at home. Speaking of debts, do you have a mortgage that you're paying? Or what are your monthly payments per month? What kind of lifestyle do you see yourself having in retirement? Do you plan to travel a lot? Do you plan to stay home and not spend a whole lot of money? So many factors are involved in this decision. So I think one of the first steps in answering this question is to sit down and make an honest budget. What kind of monthly expenses do you have? Thinking about things like either your mortgage payment or your rent payment, your insurances, all of them involve like tenant insurance, health insurance, life insurance, car insurance. And then, of course, what kind of taxes do we pay for our property or any other taxes involved? What kind of debt payments do you have in terms of lines of credit that you're paying off or credit card payments? What are your utilities costing you? What's your phone costing you? Internet, cable, everything. Make sure you have a very clear and accurate picture of what it takes for you to operate on a monthly basis. And then take a look at the money that you have saved. How much money do you have invested? How much money do you have in a pension plan? Are you given any kind of pension payments, such as in Canada? We have things like CPP, which is the Canada Pension Plan, old age security, which kicks in at 65, or you can defer it till later. Same thing with CPP, it can kick in at 60 if you wish, or you can defer it till later on in life, in which case you get more per month the longer that you defer it. And then for people who make under a certain amount of money per year, they can also apply for what's called the GIS, or the Guaranteed Income Supplement, and this is in Canada. And I know in the States you have similar things like your Social Security. So figuring out how much money per month would be coming in versus how much is going out. For my personal story, I was able to retire because I had paid into a teacher pension for over 30 years. And when the time came, I decided that what I was going to do was commute my pension. And there's a whole lot of reasons as to why I did that. In fact, I did a whole video about it right here. You can see it right here. But when I decided to do that, it gave me a lot more control over my money. And so what I do now is I pay myself a certain amount of money per month. The amount has changed probably 3 times now, depending on what my monthly needs are, depending on what I was doing with my life or where I'm living, because different places definitely cost more. I rent because I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing. My situation was a little different because I retired and divorced at the same time. So my slate was blank, and I had decided I wanted to move to Vancouver Island for a little while. I wanted to live by the ocean at some point in my life, but then I returned to a different province so that I could live close to my grandkids and be a really big part of their lives. And I was trying to figure out where I want to basically put down roots. So until I make that decision, I am going to rent. The other thing I realized was getting a mortgage was going to be a little harder. And I said in my previous video that it was going to be almost impossible. But you know what? I was speaking to the wrong people. Since that time, I have spoken to a couple of other mortgage brokers, and they assure me that when the time comes, I do qualify. And if I decide that I want to buy, I will be able to. And I do want to say that I retired when I did because interest rates were really low. And since I knew that I was going to commute my pension, it was in my best interest to commute at that time. I could have worked another whole year and walked away with less money, so it made no sense to do that. And another point I want to make is that my ex-husband had absolutely nothing to do with me financially being able to retire when I did. I can't tell you how often I got the comment of, well, now I know how you retired early because you cleaned your husband out. That is so opposite to what actually happened. I don't want to get into it, but bottom line is I ended up losing money because of my divorces. I sunk money into some property that I never got back. My ex gave me $0 and 0 cents toward my retirement. This was all my work. I put myself through school. I'm the one who made those pension payments. It was all me. Case closed. So the bottom line is we cannot compare apples to oranges. My retirement picture is going to be very different than a whole bunch of other people who are watching this. First of all, I had a pension. I worked at this job for over 30 years and I paid into it every single month. There were times I swore at that money coming off my paycheck every month, but you know, I'm very grateful for it today. Second is I'm on my own. Did I picture this? No, I pictured having a 2-income family and we were going to pay off our house and sail off into the pension sunset together, right? But that wasn't to be. So yeah, all the bills are my own. I pay for everything. Just for me though, I don't have dependents. Well, I have these two that I need to take care of as well. And yes, I pay rent, so there's that to consider. And I've accumulated a little bit of debt because I like to travel. So these are all factors I have to deal with. One question that came up a lot was about health insurance. And let's address that. I am Canadian. So when I was working full-time, all of my health benefits were paid for by my employer. Today, because I'm retired, I have to pay that. But it's $267 a month. It's nothing. And what that covers is my health benefits plan. So it covers things like prescriptions, my dental, glasses. If I want to go get massages, it covers a certain percentage of that, most of it actually. If I go to a psychologist, if I go for acupuncture, physio, it covers a whole lot of the CPAP machines. There's a whole host of things that it covers. I had my appendix burst at one point. This was back in 2011. My appendix burst in the middle of the night, and so I was very sick, did not know my appendix had burst, and I was taken by ambulance to the hospital, had emergency surgery, and was in the hospital for a week because the toxins had time to seep into my system because it had burst. It didn't just get inflamed. And so when I left, after being in the hospital for a week, my bill was $0. I didn't pay parking. I didn't pay anything because my friend came to pick me up. But I had meds afterward for sure. But I think those bills would be something like $3 for this med or $4 for that one, because then my benefit plan also kicked in as well for prescriptions. So I do recognize that going into my retirement years, worrying about health insurance was very minimal. Like I said, $267 a month. And that's going to be the cost for me until I hit 65. And then it's going to change somewhat. But from talking to other people who are in the same boat, like they're retired teachers as well, the cost is very similar to that. So if I were a family, then that monthly premium would be something like $450. So I do understand that as a Canadian, health insurance is not a big factor when we consider, am I ready for retirement? A third point that came up a lot was that people were afraid of being bored in their retirement years. And so it made me realize that it wasn't so much taking that step and actually retiring as to what people were afraid of. They were afraid of wasting their retirement. They were afraid that they were going to sit around and do nothing all day and they would, bored out of their minds. But I am here to tell you that will happen only if you let it. And I get it because we are so programmed to basically be told what to do. Unless you are, your own business owner, you've been an entrepreneur, and so many of us have been like cogs in the wheel. Like, especially as a teacher, I have been super scheduled my entire life, right? So it was like Pavlov's dog. I learned to jump when the bell would go. And so I was worried about that too, lack of structure, lack of purpose. Because I'm not a teacher anymore, what am I going to do? Who am I now? That sense of identity after that title that we have at work is no longer fitting with us. But after having been retired since 21, what I've really come to understand is that retirement does not mean the absence of doing something. Retirement means the absence of being told what to do. And what's really cool is that it's now giving you the freedom and the choices to do what you want to do. If you want to start up a whole new business, great, go for it. And then some people will say in the comments, well, then that means you're not fully retired. I beg to differ, because what I want to do in my time is my choice. And if that means I'm going to be painting and selling my paintings and making some money that way, I'm still fully retired. Nobody's telling me I have to do this, but this is what I want to do. So what do? Well, I have decided to dedicate a certain portion of my life to looking after my grandkids. And until they are in school full time, they are my top priority. And what's beautiful about that is I have the freedom to make that choice. My mom, she would have loved to have been a more hands-on grandma, but we came from a farm. So the idea of her being able to just drop everything at the farm and look after my kids, well, it was just an impossibility. And so the fact that many years later, here I am with the choice and the freedom to be able to say, yes, this is what I want to do, that is part of the gift of retirement. What else do I do? Other things I love to do is constantly learning new stuff. I was introduced to the online business world in 2020, and I fell in love with it, and I've made some money along the way, but I have to say that this YouTube thing is probably one of my favorite things because it puts together a whole bunch of stuff, things that are important to me. I love to learn. I love to learn new skills, to share with people what I've been learning. I love to make extra money, and YouTube just kind of brings all of these things together. And the other thing is it doesn't take up a lot of my time, so it fits in really well with the other aspects of my life that do take up a lot of time. Since I moved to a new city, I've been exploring the city, going to a bunch of shows and programs. I've been making a bunch of new friends. We've been doing a bunch of activities together. I love to travel. I have a very busy world. I'll tell you what I should be doing is exercising more and making me and my health a project. And this is something that I'm going to be doing in the near future. And I'm going to do some videos about it. And so maybe, you and I could even decide to do this project together and have some accountability. But that'll be coming up. And as for people that I've hung out with who are fully retired, they spend a lot of time doing volunteer work, activities with friends. Family dominates a lot of their time. Some of the people I met, they're only here for 6 months of the year, and then they're off in another country for the 6 months of the year. That's something I want to aspire to eventually. So, it's all up to what you want. If a garden is your happy place, then you could spend day after day after day in your garden and just be the most content person in your down, you know? Think back to when you were a kid. What kind of activities really made you happy? What kind of things did you always say, I want to get to, and you just never did as you were working because you just ran out of time? There wasn't enough hours in the day. What kinds of hobbies really just bring a smile to your face? Now is your opportunity to do these things. And I want to address the really common comment of lack of structure. The people who have retired for a while, what they missed was the structure. Because again, we're so used to being told exactly what to do, when to do it, day in, day out. And the adjustment to being able to create the schedule of the day yourself, it does become a bit of a challenge sometimes. But pull out a hour by hour calendar and fill it in. Create the structure for yourself if that's what'll work for you. And over time, you eventually get into a rhythm of your own. You know those Monday mornings when you just lay in bed and you go, oh man. For me, it was Sunday nights. I dreaded Sunday nights because I knew what was coming the next day. Those feelings of dread and anxiety are just not around anymore. I have to admit, it takes a little while for almost to detox, I guess you could say, but it eventually goes away. Another common comment that I received was 54 was just too young to retire. Says who? Why? Why is it too young? If I can afford it and it fits in my lifestyle and I am helping out my family and I'm living my best life, why am I too young? Are people thinking that I am not contributing to society anymore? Well, I'm looking after my grandkids and helping them be the best people that they can be. What's a more valuable contribution than that? I'm still paying taxes, maybe not the same ones I was paying before, but I'm still paying taxes of some kind. I'm not pulling from my Canadian pension plan yet because I'm not old enough, so I'm not taking from any sort of government program at this point. I'm all self-sufficient. So if this is my reality, then what's wrong with that? And for other people who are in the same boat as me, you know, they're traveling, so they're putting money into other people's pockets. They're volunteering, so they're helping out with their community. I don't understand that idea that 54 is too young. I think we're so programmed to believe that 65 is the number. But when I was growing up, it was freedom 55, baby. So I was always aiming for 55 in the first place. And I've noticed that the younger generation, like my one son, for example, he and his wife are both financial advisors, and they're planning for 45. And they have everything scheduled right out. They know exactly how much money they're going to have by the time they're 45. And my hat goes off to them, and I hope they're successful with that. I was not that smart when I was their age. And I do recognize that my pension is the reason that I'm able to retire at this point in my life. So like I said before, very grateful for the money they took away from me every single month for 31 years. And a huge common sentiment was about having left work. Was it worth it? Do they miss work? So many people commented saying it was the best decision ever to leave work. No regrets. They love their sense of freedom. There was a sense of peace that they were experiencing for the first time. The only regret that they had was that they hadn't done it sooner. Commented that they missed the structure, which is the discussion we had before, but that's a very different problem than do we miss work? For me, personally, do I miss the work? If I'm going to be honest about my own experiences, I would say there are days when I miss the kids. I miss their laughter. I miss their stories. I miss their bright faces. I miss the craziness of them sometimes, you know, because I ended my career teaching grade 8s, and there were days I would walk into that classroom just super tired and kind of grumpy. And then after the first 10 minutes listening to them, I'd be laughing again, and they just made life lighter. So I do miss that. And of course, some colleagues, I do miss them. But there's a group of women that we were going to stay tight regardless of retirement or not, right? And we still are. I mean, even moving to different provinces or different cities couldn't stop that. But do I miss the work? Do I miss marking till 2 in the morning, parent-teacher interviews, report cards, supervision? Nah, I don't miss any of that. And in fact, one of the things I loved about teaching was that you were having to constantly learn new things in order to pass on to the kids or just become better at something that you already knew. And in my retirement, I have time to do that even more. But what I want to study and on my own schedule. So to me, that aspect is more of a win-win than I've ever had before. So there you have it. Those are some major questions or comments that were made because of my last video. And so I hope this has helped you. And I hope this helps you understand that retirement is not a one-size-fits-all. It's a very personal situation. So please sit down with someone who knows a whole lot more about it than I do and crunch the numbers. Know exactly what your numbers are. And also, are you ready? Emotionally, are you ready for this? Because what I have discovered, having been retired since 2021 and having hung out with a whole lot of other retirees, is what we discover more than anything is that it's not about the numbers so much. It's about, are we ready emotionally and mentally? That's where the adjustments really take place. And that's where we don't seem to spend a lot of time in preparing ourselves. We worry so much about the financial aspect of things that we don't have ourselves ready for it. And if I could give you one piece of advice going into this, is have a whole lot of those things in place before you go. Already know what the hobbies are going to be. Even get involved in your community before you retire. Start doing some other things that you know that you want to continue on into your retirement, because then you're going to see it as a gift to be able to pursue those activities, those interests more. And that retirement will feel more like a transition instead of a big 180 flip one day, which is a big shock to the system. We don't want that. So I hope this video has been helpful in some way, maybe giving you a couple of ideas, some food for thought. And if it has, if you wouldn't mind giving it a thumbs up or even subscribing to the channel, because it really does help channels like mine. I would appreciate it so much. So thank you for watching. And in the meantime, have a wonderful day.